came back from vacation. She went away for Valentine's Day. She says, I thought you were going to be there last meeting before I went away on vacation. She says, can we meet next week? We met next week. It was Thursday. She said, I can't find in the Faulkner Act, which is the rule in New Jersey of what kind of governments they have, city council, mayor, blah, blah, blah. She said, the book was this thick. She said, I read through the whole thing. I can't find anywhere where we don't have to take the oath of office as a what I had given them, what the statute said. Because I gave them a copy of their statute. So that was on a Thursday. Well, she was getting to it, but she didn't get to it in time.
Damn the bad luck, eh?
That's what I call it good luck, grace, the grace of God. I mean, I did everything.
Bad luck for her.
It is bad luck. Last time I saw her, she looked like she had, like your stomach, you're all upset. She was not well.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is when the cop show that says
when you get your hands caught in the cookie jar.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Both hands. and there was a huge spanking coming out. But it's been delayed. How do you like it? Meeting her. So now I put her on even more notice and gave them 30 days to get every prosecutor and public defender in the city under oath. They haven't had the oath for 20 years, at least.
Wow.
Not one, but in their world, it's not a crime because everybody's a citizen. Maybe it still is, Glenn. What would you say?
It still is.
Right, even if they were a slave.
Their statute doesn't specify that it's...
Right, okay.
That's what their statute says.
So every dollar that court ever took in
Right.
is in play.
Right. And the dollars they're going to have to pay you.
I hope so. Well, I'm going to get mine before I tell anybody else. Because they can go get theirs. They kind of know that. And I suggested to my brother, because the tax assessor nor the tax collector have the oath, I feel they owe us the last 7 years back taxes.
Well, that's true.
Or they can go to jail.
Right.
Do I have the right as a commercial entity?
I guarantee you they get a commission.
How do we know?
Because I guarantee you.
No, but
I don't know how
do
you know, but I guarantee you, well, it's actually found in DC code, and now you just gotta, I'm not sure where else you'd find it, but I can tell you in DC code,
right,
and in the act to extend, or act, there's an act in 1866 and an act in 1862 and 1863, that one's for property taxes and the other one's for sales taxes. And it sets up a tax assessor collector. Okay, that's who you're talking
It
about.
was public record back when. Everybody knew what the guy made.
Anyways, they get a percentage of the whatever they take.
Ooh.
And that was back in 1862. Well, who knows what it is now?
It's just one of the extra things that you don't hear about.
So the city's going to, in my view, needs to refund. Actually, how far back can you go?
I don't know. Under IRS rules, I think it's 7 years.
What about common law?
There's not probably none.
Well, there's no
Like
statute of
no
limitations on fraud.
Right.
So did they commit fraud?
They don't have an oath. Of course, they're not calling it, they're calling it official misconduct.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to look into what else they could have committed.
Well, I figured just go for the 7 years and be happy.
Well,
if they cut you a check.
well, and so then you tell them, look, I'll settle this for 7 years.
Right, if you want to play around, I'll do some more digging.
I'll do some more digging, that's right.
Right.
Unfortunately, I'm not the one that has to sign that paper, but I think I got his attention, my brother. Because I really think there's a real case.
I think there is too.
I
I think that you got their attention. They're making everybody redo their oaths. That's evidence by itself.
65 bodies marched in to the city clerk's office. after I got done with it. The only people that had the proper oath in the town that I know of were the Board of Education that were elected, the elected Board of Ed. And every teacher had the proper oath, but that's because the state made them take it in order to be licensed when they got their original job.
Right.
So the oath of office, the perjury of oath, and it's you just have to keep pushing, and you can't take no for an answer, because they'll cheat and lie and steal, and as Glenn said, you just go up the chain, which I'm learning, and we're going to find out very shortly with the the assistant prosecutor for the county, because she said there's no probable cause, even though a signed affidavit, essentially a testimony of truth declaration, sworn, is on its face, supposedly. That's prima facie evidence. So they're saying your testimony is not valid.
No, not necessarily. They're saying that your testimony doesn't create probable cause of a crime.
The problem is she ignored everything that was a crime in the testimony, the 70 pages, and she picked out one thing and said, therefore there's no probable cause. Ignored all the pieces that were probable cause.
Uh-huh. Well, that's, I don't know. But so you just have to make sure that you talk about crimes and evidence. You got to produce.
It was all in there. It was all there. I did all of her work for her. All she had to do was present it to whoever, to press the charge. I did all her work. There was no investigation needed. We did enough of the investigation ourselves to prove the crimes through emails and various other pieces of evidence. So that's my next step once I get done with what I'm working on. So, but anyway, I just wanted to, hopefully that helps you with some, the oaths was the point. Because how important is it to have an oath? Because if the judge declares, well, you really didn't need it anyway. And the whole point is, as Glenn's saying, is it's perjury, which is a felony.
There's a de facto officer doctrine. And I believe, I'm not positive about this, but I believe that if the officer is holding the office and he's doing the duties of the office, then even if he doesn't have an oath of office, under the de facto officer doctrine, he's considered as if he does have the oath. And so then they can go after him for perjury of oath. That's why they have to make it a crime, official misconduct, when they don't do the oath.
When they don't have the oath.
Yeah. So they make it a crime not to do the oath, because otherwise none of them do the oath.
Right, but it goes back to July 2nd, 1776.
Yeah.
In New Jersey.
No doubt.
Because they understood what that meant. Meaning we have to have teeth. If you act as a public official and don't do something, and you do something that's not right, we need to have an ability to redress that. So the oath of office, and it took me a long time to learn how to get them, how to get the oaths, and then
they all have them in different locations. Are kept,
it's hide and
depending
seek.
on their office.
Yeah.
All right.
So do you know the municipal clerk did not have an oath of office?
Huh.
None. No one. And neither did all the other. Every department head there's a resolution from the city council that says our power as the people, appoint you to do X. Collect taxes, arrest people, collect trash, build the roads, whatever it is that you're the head of. There's a resolution. So the city council passes the resolution, and that then empowers the department head with authority from that body.
Okay.
Those are the people that also have to have the oath of allegiance and or office under New Jersey statute.
There's actually 2 oaths in New Jersey. A lot of places have 2 oaths. Yeah.
Right, they have the general oath of allegiance under the authority of the people. Oh, and then what they did, some scoundrel cut out the words authority of the people. It said, the oath that they did have, some of them, the mayor and the other people, it said, we promise to support the Constitution, the governments of this state and of the United States, and it stopped there. It didn't say, under the authority of the people.
Really?
They cut that out with an X-Acto knife.
Really? So, and that's required.
That's what the statute says, and it makes sense.
Right.
Under the authority of the people. Because when I learned I'm one of the people,
Right.
that changes the dynamic, because I'm down here last week, 2 weeks ago, ordering them, telling them if they don't do what I'm saying, in 30 days I'm going to start filing official misconduct charges. And I gave them a 30-day grace period. That was very nice of the king.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Right.
That's what I thought. But it took a lot to get to this point where the confidence level, because you have to know what you're doing. Because if you don't,
Right.
the armed guard is right in the back of the room ready to pounce on the word of any of those people. I had mentioned, see that Admiralty flag? A woman was wearing a couple of signs because she doesn't like all the pesticides being put on the fields,
Right.
in the town, which I agree with. But she's like upset about it and has an answer on how to do it. So she'd come almost every meeting, continue to pound the poor city council, saying, why don't you listen to me? You're poisoning us, you're poisoning yourselves, wake up.
Yeah.
And so I went, during one of my comments, it was about jurisdiction. And I said, it's going to take about 2 years to go through this jurisdiction information. I said, so please don't draw any conclusions from anything I'm going to say tonight. Lets me off the hook.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm trying to...
Well, and it lets them know that it's coming downhill, and in 2 years it's really going to be big.
And they have no idea what's about to hit them.
But they know what's already hit them, and so they know that.
Right. This is a guy now who, when I said that, one of the guys had seen me in the gym, and I said to him before I brought it out into the public, I said, can I tell you something, a city council member? I said, can I mention something without you getting offended? And I said, I don't think any of you guys have the proper oath of office and allegiance that are on the city council. He said, that's impossible. The sheriff swore me in. I'm like, okay, I let it go. A month later, guess who's signing the oath I brought forward? That guy, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm in front. All these people have had to sign the oath with the municipal clerk that had no oath, which I
Right.
told them all. That clerk right there, she has never had an oath since you put her in. And they're all like stone-faced. I said, why do the 3 flags behind you, the American flag, the state flag, and the city flag, why do they all have a gold fringe border? And you know the answer.
Maritime, yeah.
Right. Admiralty, yes.
Admiralty, yeah.
Going back to the point of the pesticide-free Ocean City, I said, this council has military powers because of that flag that's behind you.
There you go. Yeah, that's true.
So this was like 2-3 months ago. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, this one woman who's on council said, we're going to make Ocean City pesticide free. Because I had mentioned all of these people that come in and do all the lawns. We don't know what they're putting on those.
Right.
So I told them, you guys have the power to tell them what they can put on our lawns. And she got it, this one woman. So that was
Don't give
it.
them too much power,
No, they.
Yeah, right.
No, it has to be within the law. If the other people, if we all know what's what, then we can get along. Like what is real. So we all know who has what power. The mayor has certain. And I mentioned to them, I read them the code. I said crimes have been committed against me and my family by public servants. It's a year in jail, no parole minimum. And I said that this council has the authority to demand the mayor and any department head to provide sworn testimony about any matter. Any one of you can do that to any of these people. So when I bring you names and dates, I expect you to investigate. So they're waiting for the names and the dates.
Right on. So there you go.
Which I'm going to do. I'm getting to it.
Right.
In the meantime, they're all trying to stay out of jail themselves because they're realizing I'll put them there if they mess around with me anymore.
There you
and
go.
now and that's why I stated to them I'm giving them 30 days to demand that the city solicitor ask the Attorney General for a legal, I called it a legal opinion. I said, just order the Department of Law to get a legal opinion from the Attorney General about whether or not this council has the okay to let the police chief keep his job if he arrests me again when I go to church. Like that was the point of the whole thing.
Right.
And because they're
They don't have an oath.
Who?
That's the problem. The
Who?
cops.
No, they do now.
Oh, they do now?
No, after that arrest, they started signing that day.
Oh, okay.
I got them all. Like, not all, but all the ones that were involved with me, before and after. Wrong oath, right oath. I have it all evidence.
You think they're going to want to talk to you now after you did all that to them?
Well, one guy pulled up beside me after the arrest, and I was on my way to City Council chambers, riding my bike. And he zoomed up behind me because it was a red light, and I waited just for fun. At the red light, I saw him coming. He pulls up beside me. I said, "Are you taking me in again?" He goes, "No." He was very kind. He said, "In fact, that's where I'm going, to City Council." Because he knew I had my briefcase with me on the bicycle. Because I bring all my papers in the bicycle.
What did they arrest you for? What was it?
Trespassing.
Trespassing.
Yeah, at his own church.
Really?
I still don't know how they can do that.
They
quite
can't. They did it because they own the cops.
Yeah.
How can they do anything they do?
Yeah, no joke.
They do it. Now the question is, how do we make them pay
Yeah, that's right.
for what
Right.
they did?
That's
Yeah.
right.
And that's what it took me a long time to get everything in order. And that's why the 7-year statute of limitations on official. Do you know the felony 5 years? I mean, murder, manslaughter, that's all forever. But certain things, it's only 5 years, even if you commit a major crime.
Right.
If they don't prosecute,
So you just got to figure out how it's a major crime.
official misconduct is 7 years. No, my point is the wise people who put that in there realize it's going to take time for us to figure out what the people in power did when we weren't watching.
Right.
So I've got 7 years worth of crimes. I'm now just meaning from now on, like they're still doing it to me as
Right.
of 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Not all that, which is why I'm in front of City Council trying to prevent more problems. All I want them to do is find out that the city solicitor has been buffaloing them all their lives. Because at that point, the city clerk, I went into the city clerk's office about, when I was going through this whole oath thing. And, she's young, but she's in the office. She was hired as the head clerk. And there's an older woman who's deputy, and then a young guy, 40-ish, 35, who's the main clerk that you deal with at the counter. So the two underlings were out front. I said, "Would you please call so-and-so out? I'm the king calling my subject." So she appears. She says yes, and she's all tense. I said, "I'm not here to hurt you." I said, "And I want these two as witnesses, what I'm about to tell you." I said, Chris Christie, during Bridgegate, basically did not protect his number 1 and 2 guys. The woman and the man both went to jail, right? For Bridgegate.
Right.
He didn't. Because he had plausible deniability. So I explained to them, I said, you can't trust what the solicitor tells you. I said, these two people who work for Chris Christie trusted that he was going to do the right thing. I said, I'm just telling you that you have to be responsible for yourself,
Yeah.
for what you do. Meaning what I'm asking them to do, which is get an oath, which I gave them the law. It didn't matter because they're reading it. It's like, we've never done it.
Right.
This must not matter.
Right.
City solicitor, does this matter? No. So now there's a captain who's federally potentially liable for 5 years or more in jail because I noticed the city. And do I have to go around to every cop and tell every one of them?
Hopefully not.
I did tell him. Well, the cop, I did give him a chance. He came up to this. He said, "We have a warrant, and we need you to stay here while we prepare it in order to give you the court date." I said, "No." I said, "I'm going to go home. If you want to bring it there, knock on the door, and I'll answer it, and I won't accept it there." So I had the captain, a detective, and a lieutenant standing there. And I left because the one guy went down to prepare the paperwork, and that's when I told the other two I wasn't staying because they made me an offer, and I learned from you I don't accept the offer.
Right.
The offer was stay here. I'm like, no, I'm going to go home.
Right.
So I went downstairs before, and it was cold, so I took my time to put my coat on, kind of thinking they might be ready to do something, and lo and behold, they went down the back steps, came around through the front door of the courthouse to block my way. And they said, you're under arrest for the warrant, blah, 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 blah. But then I got taken to the jail cell, and I said to the captain, "Are you aware that you do not have the proper oath as a police officer? And neither does your police chief or the mayor or any city council member. And the city solicitor and the city clerk have no oath at all?" He was silent.
Wow.
I said, "Why don't you give her a call, because we just had a meeting last Thursday, and see if what I'm telling you is true." So he did an about-face, left my jail cell, locked me in at the time, went less than about an hour later, he shows back up with the city solicitor. They open the jail cell, and she stands in the doorway, leaning back against the bars, and she and I are chatting. And at the end of it, they made me another offer to leave, and I rejected that offer. I said, "I'll leave on one condition. If you bring me a check," and I mentioned the court case, Trevisan versus Tampa, which isn't exactly related. It kind of is because my travel was interrupted.
Still false
Yeah.
arrest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my travel was interrupted. It doesn't say that I'm, can I make the case? So I told her, I said, "I've been here about 2 hours. It's $120,000. I said, "I'll tell you what, you go bring me a check for $60,000 and I'll leave." And the cops are all listening. They're all outside. At least there was 2 there, plus her. And she said, "I can't do that." I said, "Why not?" She said, "Because the case hasn't been adjudicated." I said, "Well, if that's the case, then I think I like my accommodations. I think I'll stay." She leaves. The cop threatens to arrest me. I think she left. The captain threatened to arrest me for trespassing. I'm in the jail cell. True story.
Yeah.
He's going to arrest me for trespassing. I busted out laughing.
Are you going to put me in the cell next door?
That would have been good.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I didn't want to leave the cell at all because then, I lose my position.
Mm.
They gave me a position,
Yeah.
so I was in the jail cell, and I said to him, he had his camera rolling, so I said, "I'll tell you what, if you touch me, I agree to be thrown out of this complex, basically, And I looked right in the camera. I said, for $1 million. He declined my offer. He went on his way, and then they came back and told me that there's no food or water for you. And I said, I accept that. And I stayed for about a day, 24 hours, until I left, and then I had to go see city council. When I told them that I had been put under arrest without a warrant, they looked at the city solicitor. And I told them she came to my jail cell and they looked at her, like, what is going on here? So that's pretty much the story.
Do you have recourse if you get arrested for without a warrant for basically?
My understanding, Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's against the federal constitution to arrest somebody without a warrant, correct? An executed warrant?
Yeah, that's a major violation. That's assault, kidnapping.
It has to be typically as well a verified warrant, which means that it has to have a...
Notary?
No, it's...
Well, it has to be signed by a judge. If you look at
No,
New
I know,
Jersey...
but there has to be a complaint.
Yeah.
That's the verification process.
Right.
So somebody has to file, there has to be an actual person to file a complaint.
The judge is filing.
And the judge has to sign it.
No, the judge
The
can't
judge
file
can't
a complaint.
complain.
The judge is an
No,
adjudicator.
the complaint was from this church for trespassing, and I was
but-
found guilty and then fined. And I
Under your
refused it.
statutes...
Okay, well in that case there would have had to have been an affidavit of complaint from the church that then
To have
was
me jailed?
attached. Yeah, that's the complaint.
After the...
Well, the affidavit can call,
has to be signed by a judge. So the judge is supposed to make sure all that stuff is in place before he signs it. But
Yes,
it has to
yeah,
be,
but
if
there has
you
to be
read
an
your
affidavit with it.
New Jersey statutes, a warrant has to be signed by a judge.
It did say that.
And actually, you'll find sometimes that they're not.
And
They're
that's
signed
what
by
they
the
do,
clerk.
is they don't, it's not signed by a judge, which means that
They
none
had,
of the other stuff
they had
is in
two
place
warrant.
either.
They had two warrants for me, one from Wildwood and one from Ocean City, with two names printed of two different judges and two different clerks.
Yeah, but signatures?
No.
It's not a warrant.
That's what I'm saying. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I'm filing a...
And they usually have to have the official stamp, court stamp on it as well.
Yeah, it should have a court seal too.
So the
You're
one
right.
who was, if a cop arrests someone
Where,
for,
well, that's why he said, or was it you? Do you have a warrant? Didn't you say that in your
Yeah, do you
presentation?
have a verified
Right, see,
warrant
that
of
was key.
complaint? Yeah.
Like, I've heard him before, it's great. And I just, like, he's got it down to where there's steps, why he does everything.
right,
And once you learn the why, then it'll be easier to remember. Like what he said, there's only 5 or 6 steps, and if they don't get it by then, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Well,
Because-
and then also, if they don't have a warrant, that's a proper warrant, then you can resist arrest. So I wouldn't necessarily resist, but I tell them that I can't.
Yeah,
I like
you
it.
let them know.
I like it.
Tell 'em
I
that you
should have
can't.
added that. I missed that one.
So you tell them that
That's a good
This
one.
is a false
that
arrest.
where's your warrant, and if you don't have a proper warrant, I can resist arrest.
Are you aware of that?
Are you aware of it? That's right.
That's good. In the meantime, they'll go like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, whatever. Then that's an assault. When
Yeah,
they put
that's
their
an
hands on
assault,
their
yeah.
gun, that's an assault.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
But
Yeah,
you have
you
to
didn't
be
know
able
that?
to prove it. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, when they put their hands on their gun, that's an assault. That's a
No.
threat.
That's why when the cops are walking up to cars with their hands on the gun,
Right.
it's an assault at that point.
That's an
You've not
assault.
done anything yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's good.
Actually, it's assault with a deadly weapon.
I'm going to add
Yeah.
that to your paperwork.
Okay, well, let's keep going here and get
So
this
thank
done.
you for indulging me. I hope it was helpful.
yes, very
Various,
good. Yeah.
Let's keep going and get this done so we can finish. It's 10 to 5. Yes, it is. Okay, well, we'll have to rush through this. So, anyways, are you a person? A person's a fictitious entity. Motor vehicle's commercial. A private vehicle gives them notice that you do not have a motor vehicle. I've seen vehicles in Arizona that have registrations expired by many years with private vehicle written on them. A friend of mine told me that a cock came up to him and said, "Why is my computer telling me to leave you alone?" Okay, so that comes back to the sovereign thing again. Okay. You're not authorized to serve commercial process on me. These are all things that I have in my notice and demand. Okay. I'll show you I don't have any printed, but so I can show you a digital version in here. You're not authorized to serve commercial process on me. This defeats them in yet another way. They're involved in commerce, and they have a right to presume you want to engage in commerce with them, and it defeats their presumptions. Okay, the whole thing is estoppel certificates. Put them into estoppel. Matter of fact, I have a video about do-it-yourself estoppel certificates, and it talks about this. Okay, so you're putting them into estoppel. Demand that they protect you. United States is foreign to Texas, California, or any other state. Canada is foreign to Alberta or Saskatchewan or any of the Canadian states. The province of Alberta is a municipal corporation. It's a subcorporation of the municipal corporation called Canada, and the same thing in the state. The state of New Jersey is a territory of United States. Okay, but you can be in New Jersey State, which is a sovereign area. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right.
And their legislation's color of law. And this is Canada again. FBI has offices in Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver. Did you know that?
Yeah, because they're not based. They're not an American.
It's
foreign.
UN.
It's UN, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The use of codes, rules, and regulations can be an implied contract. If you use their codes, rules, and regulations, they can presume you're an entity that is subject to said codes, rules, and regulations. So I have actually a statement that I put in there. Something like the use by me of any code, rule, regulation, statutes is not intended to, I'll show it to you. Anyways, commercial paper payment, if they receive commercial paper as compensation, then they're a municipal corporation. Federal Reserve notes, if they receive Federal Reserve notes. Law of nations, in order for a nation to exist, it takes three things: people, land, and resources. And so that's why you want to have land, absolute title to land.
Loyal title.
Huh?
Loyal
Not,
title.
yeah, a loyal title, that's right. Not with no mortgage or anything. It's got to be no property taxes.
Well, in order to do that, though, if you're purchasing it and you use Federal Reserve notes,
No, that's in my land, in my thing about land, absolute title to land, and we can go through that. I figured that maybe you guys would want to go through that, but we'll see if that's something you want to go through. We can do that tomorrow.
yeah.
But you have to use, at least on the paper, it has to show gold or silver coin. It has to be real payment.
Okay, so if once, say for instance, you purchased something a few years ago, which I did, but you used an entity like an LLC, you really want it out of that, because then you basically purchase that from the LLC using the silver dollar.
Of course, that's what I do all the time.
Okay.
That's what I do all the time.
And then you have to basically...
Because you're not going to get, when you go to buy land from Joe Blow, he's not going to give you the wording on that deed that you want to have.
Right.
And so I'll buy it by an LLC or a trust or something like that, and then I'll have the trust or LLC sell it to me, the living man.
Right.
And that's when I put the wording on it that I want to have.
And you also like describe it with using maybe your own metes and bounds going in.
Of course.
Review?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And then where do you record that? You have to
Still record it in the county.
You still use their okay.
Uh-huh.
All right.
You can't have a mortgage on it if you're going to have absolute title.
What if the LLC did not ever record the document? The title. In other words, it was purchased.
Well,
You
it doesn't
put them-
matter. It doesn't matter. I mean,
You have to record that first, and then record the
no,
one.
no,
one
no,
in there?
no,
Oh,
you wouldn't. No, no, no. It
Okay.
doesn't necessarily have to be recorded. But it depends on how.
So
It
you
really doesn't have to be recorded.
You mean you could put it like a post somewhere for so many days, for like a month, or it has to be, or a newspaper type of thing?
Well, I would
What's
want
the purpose of recording?
the
Yeah.
purpose of it's recordings. They treat it like it's private. That's why they're charging the property taxes, because once you get recorded, then they transfer the title for the property taxes.
In New York, right, because in New York I found out that I went to the...
They have a land transfer fee too.
Yes, but they said, we won't record this until you bring this piece of paper. And I knew what they were doing, because they were basically saying, I agree to property taxes.
Well, but so,
and,
that's perfect. Okay? I do that in Arizona too.
Okay.
And there's court cases that say that once they have it, it's recorded, regardless of whether they file stamp it or not. And so what I do is when they, in Arizona they have, it's an affidavit of property value, right?
Okay.
Some states have the the land transfer tax. Either way, it doesn't matter. It works the same way.
Okay.
What you do is you serve it on them by registered mail, and you have proof they got it. Then they're going to send it back, and with a letter that's unsigned because nobody wants to accept responsibility for it. They'll send it back saying that we've put this in a special file until you send us this property tax or these other items. Okay?
Right.
Well, that's perfect. That special file is a non-taxpaying file.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now, if you already had someone started a procedure that you rebuffed, but in other words, to foreclose because of property taxes over maybe 2 or 3 years type of thing, will this basically stop them and stop them from...
I don't know.
Okay.
I would threaten them with lawsuit
Mm-hmm.
if they try and do something like that.
Right.
Matter of fact, what I would do if the LLC owns it and they're threatening the LLC with foreclosure, transfer it to you as the man, bring forward the land patent, use gold or silver coin, do all of that stuff, and then you send them a letter and you say, I own this property, and if you do anything to it, I'll sue your ass off.
Now, what if you can't bring the patent forward, like I mentioned before, if you can't get back to like before 1865, which is what I had a problem with. I could not get to the original patent.
Right.
Because of New York being original 13, colony type of thing. I know it's a lot easier out, I think, out west or whatever, so I'm just wondering how you handle that.
What about, have you been to the Bureau of Land Management?
I called the New York State Bureau of Land Management, and they weren't helpful at all. Then what I called?
U.S. Bureau of Land Management?
Yeah, I called it Washington. I didn't get any response. So,
well, yeah, I'd have to see the oldest deed that you got and what it says. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
1865, was it say anything about liens or encumbrances or taxes or anything like that? Probably not. I bet you back then they didn't worry about it.
I think there was some. I know it's all in script. It's all in cursive.
Right.
So
that's a good land patent.
Yeah.
I've got some land patents that are handwritten.
I mean, they had some penmanship was fantastic because
Yeah, you could still read it.
you can read it right. Right. But I mean, they
That's
learned.
better than my handwriting.
Well, my mother, they actually took penmanship up in school.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
So,
Sure they
right,
did, yeah, because
right.
that's all they had. They didn't have typewriters.
Right. Well, this was in the 20s or 30s. Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking 1800s. I thought you said 1800s.
Oh no, this one, right? No, the one I had, I found, the latest one I had was a big book, and I was able to get I have it. It's upstate. I forget that. But yeah, I want to be able to do something like that. And there's other people I know who are facing foreclosure because of for not the property taxes, for basically for for the bank, the mortgage.
But even then, you can go back to the original statute. Okay, it's 1861 or 1862 or 1863. Okay. I've got the statute. I could look it up. Anyways, that talks about creating the Board of Equalization, the tax assessor collector.
Right.
Talks about all that stuff, which is who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay, and that the preamble of that act talks about taxing to pay interest on the debt, taxing imports. Talks about taxing imports. Okay, so
right.
if you're a state citizen, then it doesn't apply.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways, I'd want to see what the deed says, the oldest deed that you can come up with,
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when it is. If it's before that act, then it's grandfathered in. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's, you get in trouble, I think, when you follow or you give one from an attorney, and the attorney basically...
Oh, the
puts
attorney's converted over a guarantee.
Exactly, they convert it over,
So
that's
you
your
just
job.
can't use an attorney. You can't
Right.
use an attorney.
That's right, right. Or you have to basically redo it, like in other words, if what I had gotten is done by an attorney, but it was in the LLC, and now I want to be able to put it
When you
into
transferred from the LLC to you, I would put my words in it and not have an attorney, for sure.
Right, right, exactly.
And
Well, I never use an attorney, but that's what I
do
got.
you have any evidence of what the land patent number was or anything like that? I mean, you might not be able to get it, but just to know what the
Well,
patent
I could
number
get it
was.
for a larger area, of course, but it would include other properties, you know what I mean?
Well,
So,
of course, that's the way it's going to be.
okay, so I could basically use that as
Sure.
this was maybe 100 acres or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, they never issue a patent on a city lot.
Right.
It's always like 160 acres
That's
or
true.
a section or something like
Yeah,
that.
right, exactly. Well,
And
the
so
original.
if you got the patent for a section, then that's the patent.
Okay, because I might have, because Rensselaer was the one who actually got, which is outside of Albany, it's called Rensselaer. That's the original, I think the original from the King of England.
Right.
He got that for America.
If that includes your land, then
Well,
that's
yes,
the patent.
yeah, that would.
That's
that would.
the patent.
Okay, so if I could get
You know,
that.
that's what you found it.
You know, and in fact, you know, someone was went to the office in Albany, and the guys arguing back and forth. And what's on the wall? There's actually on the wall.
I know a lot of them are a big plat map with
Yes,
all of the property
exactly.
owners.
He said, "Well, what's that? I want to, you know." The people working,
Exactly.
the people working there don't know.
I know. And so if you have something that's 160 acres or a section or however big, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If it includes your property, then that's the patent.
Okay.
I mean, they never issue it on a city lot.
Right.
It's always going to be 160 acres or a section or something
Right,
like that.
right.
Or like the guy in Arizona. I talked to this guy in Arizona that was the mayor of Wilcox, Arizona. Okay, had 400,000 acres.
Wow. Wow.
400. Can you imagine? You know how big a piece of property that is?
Big.
That's like
Yeah.
30 townships.
Yeah, that's amazing.
400,000 acres.
400,000. My God. That's big. Yeah.
That's. I mean, you could go to somebody like him and pay him a couple 100,000, and he'd probably give you a section or something like that.
Wow.
You know? A whole section.
Wow.
You know.
Not bad.
You know. And
Maybe that's what Ted Turner did. He buying all that. Ted Turner. No, Ted. You know what I'm talking about. Jane Fonda's ex-husband.
well, that's Ted Turner.
Ted Turner. Okay, right. I'm thinking. Right. Yeah, he bought all his land out. Now he had money to buy it, but he may have done that, right, with other.
Well,
He had one of the biggest landowners. You know?
You can buy land. I mean, you just got to find out who owns the land, and if a guy has 400,000 acres, I guarantee he's got the patent. You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't issue patents on, you know, a city lot, but 400,000 acres, I guarantee you. I've seen some of these railroad land patents that have like hundreds of sections listed.
Right.
I've got some in here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, if you have a patent that is for however big, 160 acres or a section or something like that, and it includes your land, that's the patent.
Okay.
That's the patent.
Okay.
That's all you need.
That's what we would need then. Okay.
It may not have been transferred between that. You know what I mean?
Right.
The guy that owned that patent might have sold that piece of property that you got.
Right. Okay.
Anyways, let's keep moving here.
Right. It's one long tree.
So another one is commercial paper, law of nations, in order for a nation to exist. And so really, we have to be a nation. And so that's where you got people, land, and resources is gold or silver. The only legitimate power held by any government is power that's delegated by we the people, and I talk about that in the notice and demand. Unalienable rights, I talk about how my rights are unalienable, not inalienable. And law merchant contract, I talk about how there's all of these contracts are a nullity. The only contract is a lawful contract. I have the right to resist an unlawful arrest with lethal force if necessary. And I kind of changed how I say that because I don't want to make them think that I'm ready to get into a gunfight with them. But a friend of mine actually changed the wording on that a little bit. And where an officer is killed in the course of the disorder which naturally accompanies an attempted arrest, there is resisted, the law looks very differently upon the transaction. Call it a transaction, right? Mm-hmm. When the officer had the right to make the arrest from what it does when the officer had no right. What may be murder in the first case may be nothing more than manslaughter in the other, or the facts might show that no offense had been committed. Any restraint upon my liberty is arrest, and then signed and sealed in red ink, and I always sign it sealed in red ink, and witnesses. I used to use witnesses or get it notarized, but I'm not sure that it matters. I think that it depends on how much in their face you want to be, because if you have 26 witnesses, that's a grand jury.
Right.
And so you're basically telling them that I can convene a grand jury against you if you mess with me, kind of like that.
Yeah,
See what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because you convene a grand jury against a public official and bring an indictment against them, they're done. You know,
Right.
you get 26 people to sign it.
Right.
What's that?
I'm sorry, the top line that you said on there, any restraint upon my liberty is an arrest.
That's true.
Exactly, but that's what I think you went away at the time, but I was talking about when I say to the cop, then why am I under arrest?
Right.
Yeah, right,
That's exactly it.
right.
And he might say, well, you're not under arrest, you're being detained. Well, detention, according to the courts of this land, is an arrest.
That's right.
And so I ask you again, why am I under arrest?
That's right. So you cut to the
there's no
chase.
such thing as, limited detention or
Right.
detention
Right.
for investigation.
Exactly.
It's an arrest.
An arrest,
And
exactly.
you either have a warrant for my arrest, or I've committed a felony,
Right,
which
which
gives
will
you
give
cause
you
for
probable
the
cause.
arrest.
Right, right, right.
There's the
Either
probable
that or
cause.
it's an unlawful arrest.
Exactly, unlawful arrest.
Right.
In which case, I'm free to go. Goodbye.
And if he says no, then you hand him that other paper you said.
Yeah, then
Which-
I can hand in the document,
Right.
which then says, you're on slippery slope now, so read that carefully.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what you got to do.
So you make sure you send your notice and demand by registered mail. I always use registered mail, although lately I've been using certified. The nice thing about registered is it's kept under lock and key. And there's a chain of custody that is kept by the post office, yes?
The reason I don't use certified is it says domestic mail.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if you were a sovereign, or if you're, you should do. I know it's a lot more, but
Well, registered
you
mail's
should do
international
Right,
too.
exactly.
Right.
That's why.
Exactly.
And that's why his went to the international mail when he,
Right.
like the
Right.
Tennessee
I'm gonna have to
Republic.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
look at that and see what happens. That's great.
A better way to effect service is by personal service by 3 or 4 people, but that can be, expensive. You got to get 3 or 4 people to come with you to effect service.
Right.
But the objective is to build a case against them, and you want them to know it. Quite frankly, you'd rather that they honor their oath and do the right thing, and you
Preach.
don't ever have to do something.
Right.
That's really what you want. The criminal complaint, if they do anything other than grovel, file a criminal complaint. Let them prove they're honoring their oath of office, attach your evidence, send the criminal complaint to their boss. If possible, record the criminal complaint into the public with the county recorder. After 30 days, add their boss as an accomplice after the fact and to the criminal complaint and send to their next boss up the chain of command with a notice and demand which you demand that they remove and prosecute their criminal. Keep going up the chain of command up to and including the president.
Now, if you're filing the criminal complaint, or sending them a criminal complaint, you've not filed it with the court at this point.
No. You're sending it to their boss, and that's it. But it's notarized, so there's a notarized, it's witnessed and all that stuff. You're not filing it with the court. I call it filed when you file it with a county recorder, but even that's not with the court, really. It's just with the county recorder. You're recording it.
It's public, yeah.
But you're right. It's not with the court. Matter of fact, I haven't really filed any criminal complaints with the court, quite frankly. I just I file them with the county recorder and send them a copy. And maybe I need to start filing with the court. That's something I need to start probably looking into. But
And you'd have to look
anyways,
into filing fees too, or
There's
having
no
to wait.
filing. There's no filing fees.
there shouldn't be
There
a filing
shouldn't
fee.
be, I know, but you have to.
Not when I'm filing a criminal complaint.
Mm.
There's no fees. That's what I love about
Right. Right.
they stamp. My friend taught me to get every page that you put into the court stamped. My brother made the cop go upstairs and have 600 pages stamped.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
That's right.
He made an impact.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you should be doing. I know some of the courts will automatically stamp every page, and then some of them don't. And but if you push the issue, that's what they're supposed to be doing.
They
That's
have
true.
to.
Yeah, no, they're
They
supposed
have
to do
to,
that
yeah.
much. I knew when I was filing stuff up in Canada.
Anyways, always use registered mail or personal service with witnesses. Have you ever tried to call an officer of the court a liar? A third-party witness witnesses the contents of your mailing, delivers it to the post office, and also certifies that there is no response. So a third-party witness can be very powerful, especially if it's a notary, because a notary is an officer of the court.
Right.
If you use an officer of the court third-party witness, it puts them in a very difficult position because they cannot say that they did not get your notice. Once you've started to establish your lawful de jure government, you can never be more in your face by using officers of court of your lawful de jure government. And so there's Republic of Texas notaries that we have, and that is really powerful. And or get a chief judge, like we have chief judges that have seals, and so I'll get them to be my third-party witness, and that's really powerful too. I got a speeding ticket in Arizona one time, and I went and what they did is they put the wrong date on the speeding ticket. They put it a year before, eh? And so anyways, because it was like on the 3rd of January. And so they put the 3rd of January, but it was the previous year because they, anyways. Right. So I went and sent something through the chief judge, the Republic of Texas chief judge, to the judge on the court, and that's from Texas to Arizona. Anyways, that judge in Arizona responded back, and they responded back perfectly with the address and everything, and they sent it to the chief judge because that's what it said, is he was supposed to receive service. And he did. He went and he gave me the letter, and so I mean that worked out perfectly. They dismissed the case, but anyways,
I wonder if they'd have to on that one anyway because there was a defect in the ticket.
Well, they claiming it was because of the defect they dismissed it, but I'll bet you that they didn't want to touch anything involved in the Republic of Texas either. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that date issue was convenient. Let me put it that way. Anyways, always take the initiative, go on the attack, show up at the judge's office a few days before hearing with witnesses, always demand. When in court, they always ask you, do you understand? According to Bouvier's Law Dictionary, under the definition of parties, it says, those persons who want understanding are idiots, lunatics, drunkards, and infants. So, Judge, I can see you're not an infant. Are you drunk or just an idiot? So I guess it depends on how belligerent you want to get. You know what I mean? I would be more like saying, well, Judge, according to Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856 edition, under the definition of parties, it says those persons who want understanding are idiots, lunatics, drunkards, and infants. So, I can see you're not an infant. Are you drunk or just an idiot?
If it's not party, what's the proper term?
Well, if you're in a court, they only deal with parties.
That's true. And
in other words, they're calling you an imbecile.
Well,
by being in the court.
But to some extent, you're right, and so you're calling them an imbecile back. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
But
I see.
Again, it comes back to that letter that I showed you. Remember this letter, right? And it talks about the Uniform Commercial Code, and you have to accept the definitions in the Uniform Commercial Code, and so again, you're defeating all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Anyways. You're in essence stating that you made a mistake of law and fact due to fraud, coercion, and intimidation on the part of government officials, and this process is simply correcting the public record. You're telling them to correct their records. Estoppel. is a bar that prevents one from asserting a claim or right that contradicts what one has said or done before and what has been legally established as true. By getting in their color of law, statutes, codes, rules, and regulations, we've voluntarily given them permission to enforce their codes, rules, and regulations on us. By giving them notice that a different set of facts are true, we take away that permission because attorneys are always running things these days. We have to make sure that we create an evidence trail. Collateral estoppel, the binding effect of a judgment as to matters actually litigated and determined in one action on later controversies between the parties involving a different claim from that on which the original judgment was based. Definition number 2, a doctrine barring a party from relitigating an issue determined against the party in an earlier action, even if the second action differs significantly from the first one. Also termed issue preclusion, issue estoppel, direct estoppel, estoppel by judgment. There's a bunch of res judicata. Okay, res judicata, which means previously decided. That's Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition. Estoppel by silence. Estoppel that arises when a party is under a duty to speak but fails to do so. So when you serve them with this document, and guaranteed, I'd be surprised if they respond. Okay? If they did respond, either they're going to beg forgiveness or they're going to give you evidence against them. I've had, like I was telling you, I got that Pennsylvania Attorney General removed. Well, the reason I got him removed is because he sent me a letter back, and he gave me evidence against himself. So I sent his letter as evidence to the U.S. Attorney, and next thing you know, he's gone. See what I'm saying? So if they're smart, they won't respond at all.
Right.
And so estoppel by silence would apply. Estoppel certificate. A signed statement by a party such as a tenant or mortgagee certifying for another's benefit that certain facts are correct and that a lease exists or there are no defaults and that rent is paid on a certain date. A party's delivery of this statement stops that party from later claiming a different set of facts. So you're basically doing the same thing. Your notice and demand is full of estoppel certificates so that they can't claim a different set of facts. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Draws a line in the sand.
That's right. Every paragraph in my documents is an estoppel certificates designed to take away their presumptions and put them in the position of honoring their oath of office. The principles of estoppel apply against the state as well as individuals. When they do not respond, they've acquiesced. Silence can only be equated with fraud when there is a legal or moral duty to speak, or when an inquiry left unanswered would be intentionally misleading. We cannot condone the shopping conduct. If that is the case, our message is clear. This sort of deception will not be tolerated. If it is routine, it should be corrected immediately. Most of our public servants are just honest, hardworking people, and you'll never have a problem with them. But you never know which one is going to violate your rights, so you have to notice as many as possible. When you use a third-party witness, it becomes very difficult for them to squirm out of it. As you use an officer of the court as a third-party witness, it is impossible for them to squirm out of it. The belligerent claimant. The privilege against self-incrimination is neither accorded to the passive resistant nor the person who is ignorant of his rights, nor to the one indifferent thereto. It is a fighting clause. Its benefits can be retained only by sustained combat. It cannot be retained by attorney or solicitor. It is valid only when insisted upon by a belligerent claimant in person. So if you hire an attorney, you're giving the court jurisdiction. You cannot hire an attorney. You have to claim your rights in person, in their face.
Amen.
It cannot, the one who is persuaded by honeyed words or moral suasion to testify or produce documents rather than make the last-ditch stand simply loses the protection. Once he testifies to part, he has waived his right and must on cross-examination or otherwise testify as to the whole transaction. And so that's why, if you're ever in there, they ask you your name. I don't know, I would say it's not my, the burden's on him to prove his case, and the burden's on him to prove who I am. You've assaulted me, you've kidnapped me, the burden's on him to prove who I am. I don't have to give evidence against myself.
7 elements of jurisdiction.
That's right. Anyways, he must refuse to answer or produce and test the matter in contempt proceedings or by habeas corpus. And that is District Judge James Albert Fee, United States versus Johnson, District Court in Pennsylvania. And if we shall not have corrected the this is section 61 of the Magna Carta, so this is as old as time itself. If we shall not have corrected the transaction with 40 days reckoning from the time it has been intimated to us, the 4 barons aforesaid shall refer that matter to the rest of the 20 and 5 barons. See, that sounds like a grand jury. And those 20 and 5 barons shall, together with the community, the whole realm, distrain and distress us in all possible ways, namely by seizing our castles, lands, possessions, and any other way they can until redress can be obtained as they deem fit. And that's section 61 of the Magna Carta. Christ said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." You've been empowered with knowledge. Never take anyone's word for this. Study it out for yourself. Knowledge is power. And what's the alternative? And that's it. So now what I'll do is I'll show you a one of my notice and demands. This is one that I sent to a chief administrative judge. So they're all basically the same. This was sent by certified mail just because of the fact that it needed to be done pretty quick. And I don't like certified mail, but and it's a lot less expensive than registered mail. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing more certified mail lately because of that. But anyways, here's paragraph 1. I accept your oath of office. 2 is equality into the law is paramount and mandatory by law. I did not give you authority to make a legal determination for me. If you think you're representing me, you're fired. If you or neither you nor any other person is competent in dealing in my affairs, I'm competent in dealing in my affairs. These names are copyrighted. You're ordered that any communication with me is to be signed under penalty of perjury. Any violation of my copyright or making a legal determination for me, representing me, or communicating with any manner not under penalty of perjury shall constitute an agreement to the fee of $10,000 minimum, $1 million if violated for the purpose of profit or gain, and it's always for profit or gain, and $10 million if violated for the purpose of profit or gain more than 3 times within a year, for each and every violation payable in lawful money pursuant to the Coinage Act of 1792. That means gold or silver coin.
Right.
You'll notice that any violations as described in paragraph 9 above would constitute an agreement that I could seek relief from all your corporate officers and directors, as well as your parent corporations, its officers and directors, jointly, severally, and personally. You'll notice that my proper name is Glenn Winningham. My proper address is, and in any event you wish to communicate me, it shall be shown exactly like this unless you intend to be guilty of mail fraud. So pursuant to 18 U.S.C. 1342, which is mail fraud. Okay? So I've worked on this wording for a long time, and this is really good because it says unless you intend to be guilty of mail fraud. So if you said it any other way, you intend to be guilty of mail fraud.
Right.
Anyways, so this thing is like 70 pages.
Wow.
Okay? But there's probably some attachments. I'm sure there is. Right? There's the proof of service. And I also attached my corporate denial affidavit. And the reason I put that in there is because it's got a statement of original status. See here? This is my ancestry. And the important thing of this is, like Nelson was talking about, is if you can show ancestors that were here prior to the War of Independence, that's really, really powerful. And so those are my ancestors, but then there's a statement of original status that goes through, that's right here, okay? And you'd have to read that thing, but it basically goes through and says that, it talks about my ancestors. And the reason, I wonder if I got that in here. The right of blood and kindred cannot be destroyed by any civil law. Okay, that's Bouvier's Law Dictionary. That's a maxim of law.
That's important.
And that other maxim of law that we were talking about earlier is not here. I don't see it, but it might be in here somewhere. Talks about the state citizens.
And all this is found where?
Well, this is just one that I did.
Okay.
I've got a bunch of stuff on my website. This is, let's go back to the, see what I do is when I attach attachments, I sequentially number them after, okay, the pages, so it ties it all together. So this actual document was,
Also
there's
means
the-
they
there's
can't
the
take
plates.
out documents.
Oh, yeah.
there's the Republic of Texas plates. So they can't claim that they didn't know about these Republic of Texas plates. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So the actual document, see how I seal it at the corner? It's 36 pages. And it's signed, sealed, and red ink.
Now, when you seal, you put your thumb, your right thumb? Or?
I don't use the thumb.
Oh, you don't?
I just write the word seal and my initials.
Oh, okay.
So your seal could be anything you want it to be, right? You're the king.
I guess so, right? So it's not really,
Some people use the thumb.
yeah.
It's up to you. Anyways, you'd have to read the whole thing. Now, if we go to my website,
I found it's a process. Brian, you just kind of start, you see something you like. What I've learned to do is when I see something I like, stop and put it in a document.
right?
And,
Right.
and save it.
Right.
So just because I use it
Because I think
doesn't
I'm
mean
going to, right.
you
I-
have to use it.
right.
Yeah.
But like that one, if I had it in, I know it's going to come up again in his thing, or I'll hear it. And when
Right.
I'm in a computer, I'll go ahead and I'll put it under that. I'm actually going to start doing a maximum law. Because I don't use all of them, but there's certain ones I need to have.
Right. Now, as far as we were talking to you about the statement of original status, you know, you go back to your ancestors. Now, there's actually I have a YouTube video where this guy by the name of Al Barcroft talks about that, about the Foreign Sovereign Immunity Act, actually is what he's talking about. But the important thing to understand is anybody of any race can claim this. You know, all of the old court cases talk about white race and all that stuff, but it really doesn't matter, because who knows who was sleeping with who in the 1700s, right? So all you got to do is come up with an ancestor that was here before the Civil War, before the Civil War, and ideally back before the War of Independence. And who knows who was sleeping with who in the 1700s, and so that's all that matters. You see what I'm saying? And what Al Barcroft even suggested is that some people even make it up. Okay? Now, I'm not saying to lie on an affidavit. Okay? I would never say to lie on an affidavit. But, you know, you think about who you're dealing with. Okay? They're really what they are is thieves and pirates. And so would you lie to a thief or a pirate? I would in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you got to decide what you're going to do. And then also number 2 is, in order for someone to claim that you're lying about your ancestry, it's got to be somebody that's got first-hand knowledge. Okay? So, again, it's up to you. I'm not telling you whether you should lie or not on an affidavit about your ancestry. But, again, in order for someone to claim that you're lying about your ancestry, it's got to be somebody that's got first-hand knowledge. Yeah. Anyways, it's food for thought. It's up to you what you do. I'm not going to tell you what to do or not do. Yes?
Is the scripture, most people can use scripture for their basis of making points, correct?
Okay.
The scripture says that a great-grandson, if you're the great-grandson or later of someone who was on the land, if I didn't have what I had currently, going back to 1776 or before, I would use that as my basis. The scripture says if you're in the land, if you're the 4th generation, the 3rd, basically the grandson, the great-grandson, that's where I would base my status and standing.
Okay. Well,
regardless of
scriptures.
I do go back to like the 1800s. So I did find my great grands.
Okay.
Yes, and they were here. They were here.
So the important thing is the statement of original status is about the single most powerful thing. I've got a YouTube video, and I'm making actually there's going to be a video on the a presentation on the advanced weekend about the statement of original status, and so we'll be talking more about that. Now on my website, this is my website. There's all of my YouTube videos, not all of them, almost all of them are on this. It's free. You can go here. There's links to the YouTube videos. They're organized by topics: peace officers versus pigs and the difference, kangaroo courts. So they're organized by topics. And so if you are studying and want to try and find a certain video, this is the place to go. Taxes, Canada revenue, pigs, bought and paid for media, do-it-yourself series, alternative remedies, land, pigs in Canada, Dodge Ram junk, radio, talk radio and webcasts, Christianity, U.S. border pigs, Northeast private information share. That's other events that happened here. So, anyways, all of that, and every periodically I'll update it because I don't add the videos every time I upload a video. I just do it like about once every 6 months or something.
I watched your first 2 kangaroo courts, 1 and 2. Amazing how much information, foundational knowledge.
Oh yeah,
Those first 2. After the 3rd and 4th one, you started to
repeat a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but the first 2,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Kangaroo court, do-it-yourself kangaroo courts 1 and 2. That's something I would advise strongly.
Anyways, and then the read files. Okay, now the Yahoo group. I used to keep all my files, and there was other people that had files on the Yahoo group. And Yahoo took that down. Okay, so those files are not there. And so any of my videos, my older videos, are going to talk about my Yahoo group. Well, after December, the Yahoo group is going to be gone. Okay, Yahoo is shutting that down. It'll be completely gone. I'll still have my Google group, and I'll still have Telegram. I've got a MeWe group. I've got... I'm thinking that's about it. I've got on the Northeast Private Information Share, there's some WhatsApp groups. Okay, and so because you've been here, then you can sign up for those too. They don't let anybody that's not been here on those groups, right, Nelson?
No, I think Vital goes ahead and puts some of his friends on.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Okay, well, whatever. I don't really care, but. Anyways, Vital pretty well runs that. But if you've been here, you can get on those groups. And then here is those read files that were in the Yahoo group. Actually, a lot of these are the read files are here. And one of the things that I do is all of these videos, because people like the court citations and stuff like that. What I do is I PDF the videos. Okay, turn it into a PDF file. So in other words, see,
you can't cut and paste that though.
Sure you can.
Can you have?
Like that.
Okay. I
See?
thought you couldn't do that with a PDF.
Just like that.
Awesome. That's good. I need to learn.
Control
how to-
C, and then Control V. Control C, watch. Then we'll go to Word.
Okay, that's helpful.